Emma was always exhausted, like, truly worn out. She worked insane hours at the hospital, constantly rushing from one patient to the next, barely catching her breath, let alone finding time to eat or even sit down for a second. And when she got home, things didn't magically get easier.
Nope.
In fact, they got even heavier. Her mother was sick, really sick, and every single night, instead of resting, Emma would become a full-time caregiver, giving her medication, checking on her through the night, fluffing her pillows, making sure she was warm and okay. She barely had time to breathe. And money? Don't even ask. It was tight. Bills just kept piling up on the kitchen table, one after the other, almost like they were mocking her. Each new day felt like a war she had to fight just to keep everything from completely falling apart. But even with all of that, Emma never complained. Not once. You know why? Because she loved what she did. That job? It gave her purpose. It gave her the chance to help people, even if it meant completely sacrificing her own comfort, sleep, and peace of mind. She found meaning in her chaos. Then, one night, a stormy, rough night after finishing a brutal double shift, Emma stepped outside the hospital for just a breath of fresh air. That's when she saw something. Or rather, someone. Right near the entrance, lying there in the rain, was a man in torn, ragged clothes. He looked completely drenched, his clothes were soaked through, and his skin looked pale, weak, like he hadn't eaten or slept in days. Without even hesitating, not for a second, Emma ran over to him. "Hey, are you okay?" she asked, dropping to her knees beside him, eyes wide with concern. The man groaned in response, but didn't really speak. Emma immediately called out for help, and thankfully another nurse nearby came to assist. Together, they carefully carried the man back inside to the emergency room. Once there, Emma went into full caregiver mode. She cleaned his cuts, wrapped him up tight in a warm blanket, and gave him some water to drink. The man didn't talk much, but the way he looked at her, there was something in his eyes. Quiet gratitude. A silent kind of thank you that said more than words ever could. As he was preparing to leave, Emma did something he didn't expect. She pulled out a small amount of cash from her own pocket, money she barely had to spare, and gently placed it in his hand. "Here," she whispered. "Get yourself something to eat, please." The man froze for a second, shocked. Then he slowly nodded. "Thank you," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Emma smiled, a small, tired smile, the kind you give when your heart's been heavy for too long. "We all need help sometimes," she said softly. What she didn't know in that moment, what she couldn't have known, was that this one tiny act of kindness, it was about to change everything. For both of them. Days passed, and Emma kept thinking about that man. She didn't know his name, didn't know where he went, but something about him just lingered in her thoughts. Maybe it was the way he'd looked at her, like she was the only human in the world who saw him as more than just a shadow on the sidewalk. Then one afternoon, a few days later, she saw him again. There he was, sitting quietly on a bench just outside the hospital. Still wearing ragged clothes, but they were a bit cleaner now. He seemed lost in thought, staring at the ground, almost as if he was searching for something in the cracks of the pavement. Emma walked up gently. "Hi," she said, her voice kind and calm. "Are you feeling better?" The man looked up, surprised to see her. "Oh, yes. Thank you," he said, his voice hesitant, unsure. "You really helped me the other night." Emma shrugged lightly. "It's what I do. But I'm really glad you're doing okay." They stood there, talking for a bit. He finally introduced himself. "Daniel," he said simply. He didn't go into detail, didn't talk much about where he came from or what he'd been through. But Emma didn't push. She understood that some stories are too painful to tell right away. Instead, she just smiled and handed him a sandwich she'd packed for lunch. "I'm not really hungry," she lied, nudging it toward him. "Go on, take it." Daniel looked down, hesitated, but finally took it. "You're too kind," he murmured. In the weeks that followed, Emma kept noticing Daniel around the hospital. Sometimes sitting on that same bench. Sometimes just standing near the entrance, quietly watching people come and go. And every time she saw him, she made a point to stop.
check in,
ask how he was doing. Sometimes she brought him food, sometimes spare change, always kindness. Then one evening, after one of the toughest shifts she'd had in a long time, she saw him again. But this time, he was waiting for her. I wanted to thank you, he said, his hands shaking a little as he handed her a small envelope. This is for you. Emma frowned in confusion and opened it. Inside was a stack of cash. Her eyes widened. What is this? I can't accept this, Daniel. It's nothing compared to what you did for me, he said, his voice sincere. Please take it. You deserve it. But Emma shook her head, her voice firm. I didn't help you because I wanted anything in return.
Keep your money.
I'm just happy to see you doing better. As she walked away, Daniel watched her, something glowing in his eyes. Admiration, respect, maybe even a little hope. Right then and there, he made a decision. He had to do more. Not just to repay her, but to carry forward the kindness she had given so freely. Because despite all that Emma had done for him her own life, it was still anything but easy. Each morning, she dragged herself out of bed, eyes heavy, body aching, to go work another long shift. She cared for strangers all day, only to come home and care for her mother all night. The bills were still coming, and they weren't getting any smaller. Her mom, Mrs. Carter, would sometimes whisper, I wish I could help you more, sweetheart. I'm sorry. But Emma would always smile, even if it was forced. You're not a burden, Mom. You're my mom. I'll always take care of you. Still, in the quiet moments when no one was watching, Emma broke down. Alone in the dim kitchen late at night, after making sure her mother was tucked in safe and sound, she'd sit at the table, bury her face in her hands, and cry. The weight of everything, the exhaustion, the pressure, the fear, it all came pouring out in silence. And then one morning, as she rushed to leave for yet another early shift, a knock came at the door. It was the landlord. Miss Carter, he said sternly, holding a paper. You're behind on rent. Again. If this isn't paid soon, I'll have no choice but to start the eviction process. Emma's stomach dropped. She nodded slowly. I understand, she said, swallowing the lump in her throat. I'll figure something out. She didn't tell her mom. Couldn't. Why worry her more? But inside, Emma was terrified.